Perseverance isn't born when the skies are calm. It is forged in the heart of the storm. Each time we rise to meet a challenge and each time we push through a setback, we are strengthened in a way that we will always carry with us. Life does not always move in straight lines. It twists, it stalls, it surprises us with storms we never asked for. Perseverance is not about never breaking down. It is breathing through the weight of disappointment, rising after a fall, and taking the next step when the horizon is still hidden, trusting that every small act of persistence is slowly shaping a future we cannot yet see. When life happens, it can feel like a wave crashing into us without warning, threatening to pull us under. Fear, sadness, anger, and uncertainty can weigh so heavily that moving forward seems impossible. In these moments, perseverance doesn't mean ignoring what we feel. It means learning to carry these feelings with courage and compassion for ourselves while finding the strength to keep pushing forward, one small step at a time. When emotions surge, the body reacts too. Our heart races and our muscles tighten. A few slow, intentional breaths can calm the nervous system. Even pausing to breathe reminds you, I am still here. I am still moving forward. No matter how strong the emotions are, they do not last forever. Just as storms eventually pass, so too do the most painful moments of the heart. These painful moments arrive without our permission, and they show up without explanation or apology. They take up space in our bodies and our minds. They interrupt our routines and they linger longer than we wish. To feel that pain, to be with it and to breathe with it is to be human. It is facing the truth of being alive. Pain reminds us of our edges, our frailty, our breaking points. Pain exposes the cracks we cannot deny. And though we may want to escape it, to outrun it or outthink it, often the only way through it is to let it be. Pain is not only destruction. Beneath the ache, it begins to shape us in ways we don't expect. It slows us, forcing us to pause when we'd rather rush ahead. It teaches us to sit with uncertainty and discomfort, to discover patience we never thought we had. It sharpens what matters and strips away what doesn't. It shakes the strength of our foundation and reveals where we need to grow. Pain deepens our understanding of others. Once we have felt it ourselves, we can recognize it more easily in the eyes of someone else. We learn to listen differently, to soften our words, to offer kindness without needing a reason. Pain does not have to be meaningless, but it is up to us to make a purpose out of it. How we choose to respond to the pain will determine if the experience makes us or if it breaks us. We may not choose our suffering, but we can choose what it becomes. We can let it harden us into bitterness or soften us into empathy. We can let it bury us or let it clear space within us for something new. There are days when moving forward feels less like a choice and more about survival, when staying stuck is simply no longer an option. Some days I would wake up already exhausted from a restless night, struggling to find a reason just to swing my feet off the bed. Some days there was no reason to be found, only a grim determination to push on or a fragile willingness to allow myself to feel broken and keep moving forward anyway. And then there were the days when just when I started to think I had finally broken through to the other side, the storm would return to me suddenly. During those times, I became plagued by the deep meaning of life questions. They weren't just passing thoughts, it was a deep existential anguish. It shook the foundation of everything I thought I knew about myself, about other people, about everything I thought I knew about truth and reality. Every time I thought I was getting close to finding the answer, it all just fell apart or slipped away. I started to learn that there were no easy answers to the questions I was asking, and that there were some questions that I couldn't answer at all. So I started to learn to be okay with not having the answers. But the biggest thing I learned was that I was not alone in my search, that the desire to find meaning was a shared struggle as old as humanity itself. It was during these times that I began to feel how vital human connection is to life, and slowly realized that maybe human connection was the answer all along. As strong as I was becoming, I had to face the fact that I couldn't do it all on my own. And I also began to understand that I needed to rely on more than my old ways of thinking. I went searching far and wide for new ideas, and some things started to get better. Still, as much as I was gaining from opening my mind to new ideas, not all the ideas that were working for other people were working for me. Yet I also couldn't just simply ignore the fact that they were working for them. I slowly, painfully started to grasp some of the reasons why I was struggling. I learned to accept difficult truths instead of cling to comforting illusions. I learned to adapt. I learned what ideas worked for me and what ideas did not. I learned when I needed to be humble, to let go of my old incorrect ideas, and when I needed to stand firm on what I believed to be true, what I believed to be right. And I learned when it was more complex than the simple matter of right or wrong. I learned it was not always necessary for me to try and prove myself right to everyone else all the time. Yet, there were times when I could not simply remain quiet and do nothing either. I learned that I didn't need to be perfect or have all the answers, that such a thing was an impossible task. I learned that all I needed to do, all I really could do, was just do the best I could with what I had. This was not an easy process. I made mistakes, I failed, I stumbled again and again, and sometimes I fell. But I learned to pick myself up each and every time and keep going. I learned to not beat myself up so badly for my mistakes while not turning them into excuses either. Somewhere along the way, I also learned not to take everything quite so seriously all the time. I turned everything I was learning into my own personal philosophy and started learning how to make my own path through life. In doing so, I discovered a freedom I had never known before. I became able to make my own meaning, to find purpose in the pain, and to answer my own questions as best I could. During this process of transformation, I reshaped myself into something new, yet in a way I was still the same, completely and utterly human, just aware of my own humanity on a different level than ever before. It wasn't about being what I thought I should be or what others expected of me. It was just about being who I truly was. Today, what often matters most to me is not where I'm going, but how I carry myself as I go there. During the storm, I gained a kind of strength I never knew was possible before. But now that I know I have it, I also know that I have the strength to endure any storm. And I know there will be more storms to face in the future because for me, the process is ongoing and always will be. The path to spiritual growth is rarely easy. Life's hardest moments aren't detours from the path, they are an unavoidable part of it. Sometimes the most spiritual growth we experience comes from our biggest struggles. Struggle is not a glitch in the system or a punishment dealt out unfairly to some while sparing others. It is a fundamental part of the human experience. It is to know difficulty, to carry burdens, and to face challenges you never expected or wanted. But even under the heaviness of it all, the struggle comes with a great worth. It contains a shaping power that nothing else can provide. When we are in the midst of it, the struggle feels endless. It feels like being lost in a storm with no clear path forward. In these moments, it is natural to want to wish it all away, to long for shelter from the storm or the calmer skies of the past. But if we dig deeper, we see that struggle is not an enemy, it is a mirror. It reflects back to us the parts of ourselves we did not know existed or tried to leave buried in the past. This reflection has a way of peeling back the layers we hide behind. It reveals to us who we are when there is nothing left to lean on but ourselves. It's in the moments when life refuses to bend to our will that our hidden capacities are called to the surface. We don't always get to choose our challenges, but we can choose to let them sink us into the depths of despair or elevate us into beings of greater courage and compassion. When we choose to persevere, to go through the struggle instead of avoid it, we learn how to conquer the storm instead of allowing the storm to conquer us. The ups and downs we go through during the storm can bring with them a sense of duality, a back and forth that feels disorienting. It is not easy to live within this constant pull. We crave clarity, certainty, and peace, but duality reminds us that life will always be a mix. Where there is love, there will also be the risk of loss. Where there is growth, there will also be discomfort. Our inner reality is rarely clear-cut, and two seemingly opposite emotional states can exist within us. Duality often manifests as a contradiction within our attitude. We want stability but long for change. We want connection but retreat into solitude. We want to imagine the best possible outcome then immediately fear the worst. This tug of war between opposites is exhausting, and yet it is in this very tension that we begin to understand the full depth of what it means to be human. Perseverance is the bridge that carries us through duality. It does not erase pain, nor does it guarantee ease. Instead, it allows us to keep walking even when we are caught between what we desire and what we fear. It is enduring uncertainty when clarity eludes us. It is continuing to move forward when life feels both heavy and full of possibility. Persevering through the storm allows us to find balance. Balance is not about silencing the storm, but learning to stand within it without being swept away. Over time, we learn the rhythm of the ups and downs, leaning, adjusting, regaining our center, always moving forward. Balance can become a foundation that will outlast the storm, and with each storm we persevere through, that foundation becomes stronger. The storms are chaotic. Life as we knew it dissolves into disorder and certainty fades. Chaos strips away the illusion of control. It reminds us that life is not always orderly, not always gentle. Sometimes that chaos does not come from the outside world, sometimes it comes from within. These kinds of storms are invisible to the people around us, yet anyone who has lived through one knows the toll they can take. Perseverance in these times becomes more than simply pushing through. It is also learning to calm the storm where we can. Sometimes that calm comes in small, ordinary acts. Slowing the breath, stepping outside, grounding the body in the present moment. Sometimes it comes in shifting attention, letting the mind rest on something steady even if just for a while. These calming acts, these coping skills, do not erase the storm. What they do is give us the means to stand within it. Each time we practice these skills, they start to become more natural. They become a part of us. The storm loses some of its ability to shake us. Perseverance and calm work together. Perseverance keeps us moving through the storm, while calm keeps us steady as we move. Each time we practice both, persevering and finding moments of calm, we remind ourselves that difficult thoughts and emotions are not the whole of us. They are weather passing through. As we learn to experience them and remain calm, we learn that these kinds of storms are not permanent, nor are they stronger than us. When the storm is gone, what endures is our ability to keep moving forward and trust that the sky will clear in time. This capacity is essential because the storm will not yield to our demands for it to end. No matter how loud we get or fervently we wish, we cannot force the clock to turn faster, nor can we scatter the clouds with our will. Patience is the quiet strength that allows us to persevere the storm. It allows us to hold steady, trusting that change is unfolding even when we cannot see it. Some goals, some healing, and some transformations take longer than we expect. This is when patience becomes one of the most powerful skills we can practice. Time moves on its own terms. No matter how much we push or pull, the minutes and days unfold at their steady rhythm. Patience is about learning to move with that rhythm rather than fight against it. However, patience is not passive. It's an active choice to stay steady, to trust the process, and to keep showing up. When the storm is raging, the mind can get so bogged down in negativity it's hard to see the good in any of it. But this is often when we need gratitude the most. Gratitude helps us see through the fog of our emotions and keeps us from getting swept away completely by the temporary perceptions that negative thoughts can generate. It can become an anchor to reality. It's easy to be thankful when the sky is clear and everything seems to be unfolding just as it should. But gratitude is most powerful and most essential not when life is easy, but in the difficult times. However, when challenges weigh heavy, gratitude can feel like too much to ask of ourselves. Yet it is in precisely these moments that it becomes a lifeline. Gratitude does not deny the struggle. It doesn't erase the pain or pretend that everything is perfect. Instead, what gratitude does is allow us to notice the small sparks of light in the midst of the darkness. Gratitude for the little things helps us find the resilience to keep going. In hard times, gratitude is less about abundance and more about awareness. It shifts the focus from what has been lost to what still remains, from what feels broken to what is still whole. Gratitude practice in difficulty transforms. It softens the sharp edges of hardship and gives us a way to carry the weight with greater strength. It reminds us that even in the storm there are steady places to stand. Perhaps the greatest gift of all is this. Gratitude, when chosen in hard times, does more than help us endure. It opens our hearts to hope. Okay, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button. In my next video, I will be talking further about the positive energy that gratitude brings to our lives. So if you'd like to hear more about that topic, make sure you subscribe. If you have any thoughts on the topic of perseverance, I'd love to hear about it in the comments section. A special thanks to all who have supported the channel so far. It really means a lot to me and every little bit helps. If you'd like to support the channel even further, I'm accepting donations in any amount via PayPal. The link's down in the description along with links to my other social media pages. Alright, until next time fellow travelers, I wish you all well on your journeys.